Welcome to the Clutch Burners Podcast. This is your home for stick shift drag racing, stick shift tech, and in this episode, we have one of the premier transmission techs, companies, builders, whatever you want to call it, in the country. And of course,
innovators
too. And over there is my guest, not guest, my co-host, the Canadian Chuck Norris.
Thanks, Billy.
Who do we got, Rich? Who do we got over
I think we
there?
got Matt from Tick Performance.
That's right. And I have to start this off. Matt, did you get a fresh haircut just for this tonight?
No, it just happened to coincide with when I normally get my haircut. So
Wow. It is perfect timing.
It was perfect timing.
I was going to cut my left one. Yeah, I was going to cut the left one, but I forgot. You can't even tell.
I haven't worn a welding helmet today, so it helps out a lot too.
Excellent.
That's probably a great lead-in to tell us about who you are and what you do. I just thought you were the face of the operation, but welding helmets, what's going on there?
Okay. Well, I guess maybe I should just start with my story of Tick Performance, or where I came from, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna have to guess on years here because I can't keep up with it anymore. But I was probably 16 years old, so I'm 34 now. So you do the math. I was building my third gen Camaro, which I still have. It's not here behind me. It's at another guy's place getting wired because I try.
Is that the red one?
Yeah, the red one.
Okay, nice.
And I was putting together an engine for it, and I needed to order some push rods, and I knew Johnny and Jonathan. And at this time, they were in Mooresville. They were pretty fresh to moving to Mooresville, I'm pretty sure. I don't think they had been there long. But I had known them from having to previously have something done when I was 16 years old at Tick when it was in Mount Airy, North Carolina, which is where we are now. So I knew those guys already, and I needed some push rods. So I called Johnny, and I said, hey, I need this length push rod. Well, he comes and brings them to me, and I'm putting this engine together. And it's basically a shed with a dirt floor. I have a piece of plywood laid down, an engine sitting on top of this piece of plywood, right? And if you walk by it, dust is going to just fly right in the engine. And I put this engine together, and he brings these push rods because he lives in Mount Airy, and he's driving from Mooresville to here every day. And he gets out, and he hands me these push rods. I'm I'm going to put this engine in my Camaro over there, and the Camaro's sitting off to the side with grass as tall as the Camaro. You know, I'm 16 years old. There's no chance this car's getting done, right? This is just one of those things I'm wasting money and time on, right?
Now, I have a quick question. Is that dust you're talking about? Is that red dust?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Red dust. It is North Carolina red dirt. That's exactly what it is.
Very familiar.
Barely grows corn. So about a year later, I see Johnny at a gas station, and I'm in that car, and I'm driving it around with that engine. And I guess that left a really big impression on Johnny because, I actually completed the task that I told him I was going to do. And, the car sounded pretty good. It was pretty rowdy. It wasn't super fast. I didn't know a whole lot then. Didn't know a whole lot about anything. I was learning, and I was just trying it. And so that scenario, I guess, stuck with Johnny. Well, fast forward, I guess, about a year from that time, they're looking to hire somebody.
Right. Johnny is
Jonathan's dad. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. So he's the original owner, the OG.
Yep.
So about a year after that scenario, or a year after the gas station meeting, I get a call, or not a phone call. I get a call from my dad because Johnny is at the house, and he had came to see if I wanted a job because they need to hire somebody, and he was telling my dad the same story that I just told you, and he told him that's the reason he wanted to hire me. So I went down there the next day, and I started working there. And it's funny because it was literally the day I was supposed to start at the local Chevrolet dealership up here. So instead of going to work at a Chevrolet dealership, I decided to work for less money and go to Tick Performance and drive 80 miles one way every day.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I lived here and drove to Mooresville every single day. And I did that for 2 years because we were down there. I was down there for 2 years before we moved back to Mount Airy.
Wow.
So that's kind of where the whole thing started. That's kind of where it came from. You're going to have to remind me what your original question was now.
Did he pay you extra for gas? My God.
No. I made $10 an hour, and I drove to Mooresville. And gas, at the time, that was, like I say, I'm bad with numbers, but that's 09, 2010, probably 2010. So that's, $4.50 a gallon for gas out here too at the time. It was pretty rough. I didn't make much, but I had fun. I was doing something that I liked doing, and I had a good time.
What did you start doing? Like, what were you putting engines together? Or?
So realistically, I did a lot of, so even back then we were rebuilding T56s, and what I did primarily was clean those things up. So Jonathan would take them apart, and then I would wash them and clean the old RTV and things like that off of them, and pick the metal dust out of the gears and stuff like that, because sometimes it would pack into the synchronizers, and I would clean all that stuff up. But I can tell you the very first thing I did when I started down there too, actually, it was a C5 Z06, and I can remember having to fix a vacuum leak on the back of a fast intake manifold. It was the very first thing I ever did when I started at Tick Performance. I don't know why I remember that, but it sticks with me. So I pretty much started out sweeping floors and cleaning parts, honestly.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm pretty good at taking stuff apart. I mean, right?
Yeah.
It's the other end of it that's challenging. Wow.
Yeah.
That's an awesome story. I mean, it's just like the dream story of a business owner, right? You start off pushing the broom, and here you are now. You own the place. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It is a pretty cool. It's pretty cool to look back on and think, where things were and where things are now, and how things have progressed, and how much I've actually been able to be a part of that. It's kind of special to me.
And how long did you work there before you bought it from Jonathan? So how long was that?
Technically made the purchase on paper in March of 2023. So coming up on 2 years now. Wow. So yeah, it was, I had been there a long time, and there's only one other person that had been there longer than me. And he's my business partner. His name's Joey. He's not somebody that you really ever see. He's a car guy. He's had some pretty cool stuff, but he's not the guy who's going to get in the shop and build it himself. He's the guy who's going to get somebody else to do it for him. But he has some pretty cool hot rod stuff too. And we're 50-50. But he's the only person that's been there longer than me or longer than anyone else. And when I started, it was him and Jonathan, Johnny, and then there was me. That was all there was.
Wow.
And how many employees do you have now?
I was going to count before because I knew you were going to ask, but I want to say it's 22 or 23.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Dude, that is so impressive, Matt. I mean,
yeah, we do a lot more things than people like even, I guess, realize. Obviously we do the transmission stuff. That's a big part of what we do, but it's not even the biggest part of what we do. Primarily, we were an install shop. We did a lot of LS stuff. So cam swaps, obviously clutch swaps and transmission builds, rear ends, IRS differentials. I've rebuilt Corvette differentials and stuff like that before. So we've done a lot of stuff, and we sell a lot of stuff because we used to install a lot of stuff. So we sell ProCharger, and we sell A&A and Whipple and all that stuff. So our primary business is actually online sales. We do a lot of that. So we have a whole sales staff. We've got 6 people in sales right now, I believe. If my math is right from today, but so we do a lot in sales, and then we have, obviously we're a manufacturer too. You guys know that, but we're making our shifters and our hydraulics and things like that. Stuff that we've been making for a long time, and the intercoolers. That was the original question, the welding thing. So yeah, I'll get to that too. But so we've got production, we've got assembly, we've got shipping, and obviously we've got the transmission department. So we've got guys in a lot of spots and a lot of people in a lot of areas. And that's just, that's what it takes, I guess, to make things tick. But yeah.
Was that a pun?
That was a pretty good pun, yeah.
Man, that was awesome. So how much did that ramp up after you bought the company, like in the last 2 years?
As far as
well, I guess like the head count, like you said, your primary business is online sales now. Yep. Was it before you bought the company, or was it the same?
It was before, yeah.
Okay.
It was still primarily before. We have made some changes, like staffing wise, because obviously with Jonathan gone, there's a position that needed to be filled, I guess, and I pretty much most of what Jonathan did when he was like in his later years, as far as tick performance, was maintain relationships with our good customers. And those guys wanted to talk to him because he was knowledgeable in transmission stuff. And so primarily what he did was just kind of be a face. And so I kind of had to step into that role a little bit. But one of my knocks on Jonathan doing that is I didn't think he went out of his way to be enough of a face. I feel like he should have done more as far as that's concerned. And that's not trying to talk bad about him. I think he had the opportunity to do it. He just didn't care to do that.
Hmm.
And I respect that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I did feel like that was an opportunity for us to put ourselves out there a little more than he had been. Just because, like I say, maybe he wasn't comfortable with it, or whatever the case may be. But there was an opportunity there. So then we kind of moved some new positions around, as far as like we didn't technically have a general manager 2 years ago. Now we do. We didn't technically have a manager for the transmission department, and now we do. So we kind of created a few positions nearly as soon as we bought the place. That way we could like take the load off of some people, including myself, and let me kind of do the things I'm better at, instead of having to take care of things like calling plumbers and calling roofers and things like that, because I was having to do that too when those situations arose.
So, is the Canadian Chuck Norris, is he one of your valuable customers?
Absolutely. 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 He's very good at testing to see if things are going to work or not.
Yep.
Or breaking, one of the two. Like,
Yeah, there, that's it.
I've heard he's pretty hard on stuff.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, a lot of these stick guys are hard on stuff.
Get out of here.
Crazy.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I have two transmissions. Both of them, you guys have modified the tail housings now for the bigger yokes. I have billet front plate on one of them. I've got a PPG gear set that I got from you guys. I've got your tick shifter, which is fantastic. Like I don't have the lockout one, but I'd better find some wood when I say this. But I've never I've never 1-2-1 or 3-2'd, I guess.
yeah.
But
Yeah, that's the bad one.
yeah. So yeah, everything's been fantastic. So
Well, good.
Yeah, and I'll say too, I have a tick shifter as well. I have your shift forks in there.
oh yeah,
I have your front cover, which is awesome. I think that might be it. But I have a question about the rear, the rear housing and that bigger bushing and the different yoke.
Mm-hmm.
Does a guy have to send that in to make that changeover, or what's involved in doing that?
No, technically you wouldn't have to send it to us. You can modify that tail. Anybody with a machine shop local to them could probably have that modified.
I might know a guy.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of guys, because all you're doing is opening that tail housing bore up to accept the bushing and to accept the seal, and if it were a deal breaker for somebody to where they couldn't send it to us, I mean, I have no problem sharing what diameter that needs to be with somebody.
Oh,
There
okay.
is a couple of tricks that, for instance, if you have a Magnum tail housing or a Magnum XL, you do have to do those a little bit differently than you would an F body style tail housing. But other than that, they're generally all the same. And we have done F body 6-bolt Magnum and Magnum XL tail housings all now. I've not had anybody run the XL yet. We've just modified one. They haven't actually put it in the field and tested it. And I'm a little bit nervous about that one because it's so long, but I guess we'll find out because it's going in a 3,000 horsepower car. So we'll see if it holds up or not.
Wow.
stick guys are so dumb.
Is it and this is one thing that kind of amazed me, but because you kind of mentioned it right there, is it amazing to you when people buy parts or complete assemblies or whatever, and then how long it actually takes before they run it?
Yeah, well, sometimes, yeah, it is. some guys, they're pretty quick to get things going, get things together.
Those are the guys that have you overnight stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Or the guys that are already running and they're just making changes.
Right.
Yeah, some guys, man, year, 2 years, long projects, and then some guys you help them out and you do something custom for them, or you try to do something special just for them, just to make sure that they know they're appreciated or something, or whatever it might be. And then 2 years later, they come calling again. And they're like, hey, what was this, that, and the other? And I'm like, man, I don't remember. That was 2 years ago. I have no idea.
Yeah, that was 800 transmissions ago or whatever.
Yeah, that's crazy. So is your red car, was it a stick shift always, or
No.
I know you're redoing it now, and I'd like to think it's most certainly a stick shift, but was it back then too?
It was not. It's always been an automatic.
Is it still an automatic?
No, it's not now.
Okay. It's a stick shift now.
It is a stick shift now.
Whew, God, I was like, Travis, we're gonna have to cut this out of this. In fact, we're not even gonna post this one.
The G-body's automatic. I'm already stick a manual in it as well.
Good for you. You know a guy, right?
I do know a guy. I have something super cool for that one. I have a PPG synchronized deal, and I'm going to try to take that thing. So I know a guy who lives in Atlanta who does a lot of roll racing in Mexico, and I'm going to go down to Atlanta, and see if I can get him to roll race me for his YouTube channel in the G-body. He's going to outrun me because he's got 700 more horsepower, but I'm still going to do it.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So tell us about welding.
Oh yeah, welding. So after we moved back to Mount Airy, so this is probably I'm 3 years in to working at Tick Performance, and this is what's been really cool about everything that I've done, and this is what I'm most appreciative of from Johnny and Jonathan, and I have to be, because without them I wouldn't have been able to do this kind of stuff. So 3 years in, we're back in Mount Airy, and I'm basically like, hey, I want to do fabrication stuff. They're like, well, do you know anything about it? And I'm like, my grandpa showed me how to stick weld when I was a kid, and we built a go-kart. He's like, well, I guess if you want to try it, you can try it. So I got a welder and a couple things, and I got a job not a job, but a job to Tick to do some stuff for them. And it was a 4th generation Camaro. It was orange, and I've been trying to remember this guy's name for weeks now because there was a conversation that had come up, and I was trying to remember it anyway, but I can't remember it for the life of me. I had a Pro Charger kit, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen a Pro Charger kit on a 4th gen Camaro, but they mount really low down to the front, air inlet in the front, and the radiator's right against it. There's no room for air to come in. So one thing that a lot of guys used to do was chop up the core support, move the radiator forward. That way they can put a big air scoop on it and still have an air filter and not be sucking in dirt off the ground. So that was the first thing I did, was modified a radiator location for a car like that and built an intake for it. And they were both kind of blown away by how nice I was able to make it. And to be honest with you, I was too. I wasn't expecting to be able to do such a good job on it. And at the time, I didn't do welding either. So that was kind of like the intro to doing fabrication work. Well, then, as time went on, I figured out how to TIG weld, learned how to TIG weld, started doing some turbo systems and roll cages and all kinds of stuff like that. And we did that for several years. And I actually did that on my own for several years as well. I actually ended up renting a shop, and that's where this place we're sitting in actually came from. This is my personal place, and I built it to do fabrication work. I don't even do it anymore. But we did that for several years, and then we had our hydraulic kits, and we'd had our hydraulic master cylinder kits since back in the Mooresville days, prior to me even being there. And it had grown in popularity. We had added a few different kits. We never really were focused on just making more kits or anything like that. But it had gotten to a point where we couldn't get parts, and the guy we were having make it, we'd order 50 pieces and he'd bring us 20 and stuff like that. Like, well, I can't keep up with you guys, this, that, and the other. And then I had this idea to do the 5th gen Camaro kit because that car had a problem that needed addressing as well. But the type of master that's in that car, it's not like a conventional master cylinder like a Tilton 75 or 76 series. It's not got a double seal piston in it. It's a single seal, and it actually has a valve in it that flows one direction to let fluid back by. So it's a completely different animal. It's really short and small. and to get something in the car, we were going to have to custom make it. So that led down the path of me going, hey, I think we should start making our own parts. I think we should machine our own parts. And he said, well, you know anything about it? No, but I want to. So we called a bank and bought a $170,000 CNC machine.
Wow.
Brought it in and set it on the floor. I had to have them show me where the on switch was. I was able to get it turned on, and just so happened this particular brand, and the reason we even had this brand in the first place, it's called Herco, and the reason we have it is because they're conversational programming, which means you can walk up to the control panel, and it looks just like a PC. That's how it's laid out. It's actually Windows based. Those machines are, and you can generically program a part. You're not going to get too crazy or too complex, which was good for me because I didn't know how anyway. You can generally walk up to that thing and figure out how to program something. So I spent weeks standing in front of a machine, typing on a page, and trying to make something work. And after several weeks, I finally got it figured out on how to make the thing run and how to actually make parts with it. And then from there, I was just, all right, I got this. I can figure this out. I'm gonna keep going and keep moving on. And soon after that, we bought a lathe, and I figured that out. Figured out how to make some of the lathe parts, and that was just a simple 2-axis lathe. So that's kind of where the whole fabrication thing started, or the whole machining thing started. It stemmed from fabrication and welding into, hey, we need to get our parts made. Let's do it ourselves. Talking about welding helmet tonight, this is what this is all coming from. But we make a lot of air to water intercoolers that mount to Holley intakes. And
those things are beautiful. The ones I've seen, they're so nice.
I appreciate them. I'm pretty proud of that one with the billet top. That was something that I had been working on for quite some time, and it's super, super popular. I think we're going to sell more of that one than we will any of the other ones this year. But last year, we sold nearly 600 intercoolers, 600 of those manifold mounted, and I put every one of them together. So I weld all of those things together here myself.
Dude, Matt, this is so impressive, man. Seriously, like wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. I don't have a life, so I'm down here a lot, and I'm over at work a lot. But I've tried to hire a guy. On 2 occasions, I've tried to hire people to do the welding for me, and both have been a miserable failure. So I just keep doing it myself, and eventually the right person will come along. But for now, I'm still just doing it myself.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
There's something therapeutic about stacking dimes, I think.
It really is, and to me, it's kind of calming because I can just turn the music on. I know what I'm doing. I've got a system. I like to value time, if that makes any sense. So I like to figure out how to do things in the best possible order that I can. So I have my entire system laid out here to where the only time I have to stop to do anything is if I physically have to stop and get some water or go to the restroom or something like that. Like I've got everything timed out just perfectly where parts are cooling off as I'm needing to take fixtures apart and things like that. So
you're going to have to build an SOP for some guy that you hire, right?
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have to be a picture book and exactly how to do it. And
yeah. The last guy that I hired and tried to get him to do it, I was like, now, so you can make about 4 of these an hour if you do it this way. And he did it for about 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, he was like, listen, you can't do 4 of these an hour. There's no way. I'm like, do you need me to show you? So I showed him, and he's like, I just don't understand how you can do that so fast. And I'm like, man, you just gotta do it. You gotta think I've done 1,000 of these things. So you just gotta do it.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so awesome.
So it sounds like you do a bunch of the engineering yourself.
Yes. Now I do have an engineer on staff as well, like a legitimate engineer. I never finished college, so I don't have any kind of college degree or anything. And I would have loved to have went to college for some type of engineering field. Probably wouldn't have been automotive. It's funny because I never even wanted to be in the automotive industry. I just thought it was a hobby, right? But I do have a lot of influence over the way products are designed still. Like even the ones that I'm having him design specifically. For instance, our Corvette shifter, I kind of let him run with that, and I give him my inputs on. If he'd ask me a question, I'd be upfront and honest with him, and whether I liked it or I didn't, and things like that. And then after that shifter project was over, I was super happy with what he had done. And it's really cool because, he went to engineering school to be an engineer, and he didn't have any knowledge of manufacturing, right? And technically, years ago, I didn't either, and I do now. So when he designed something, um, it's kind of one of those things like, well, hey, I know you can't make it that way, but let me tell you why. And now, after countless revisions of different parts, the engineer that works for me has actually bought a CNC machine to have at his house because he likes it that much. He enjoys it that much. And I think that's super awesome. He's actually got two. Um, but now he understands how manufacturing works. So he can design a part from start to finish with just about no redesign needed because he already knows, hey, I can't do something this way because you can't physically make that square edge with a round tool. Like I can't do that. So I'm going to design this in a different manner and know that it's going to be closer to being a feasible product before I even show it to Matt. And he's done really well with it. He's really done well. And I enjoy having someone like that around that actually has engineering knowledge because I didn't technically have any. So it makes bouncing ideas off of someone super easy now.
Yeah, I work with a bunch of engineers. I'm in the petrochemical industry, and the engineers that take the time to get out in the field and get hands on, they're the ones that are top notch.
Yep.
So the fact that you didn't have any, and you guys probably, yeah, you've probably turned him into a fantastic engineer strictly by how he started to work with you. So that's pretty cool. That's another cool story for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty fun because I'll look at him and I'll say, "What do you know about this subject?" "Well, I don't really know anything about that." I'm like, "Well, let's figure it out."
God, that's so awesome. So I am curious, as a business owner, also, I'm always very curious about the business side of things. So is there, I mean, it seems like there's a ton of competition in the parts sales, online parts sales kind of business. Do you see that, or like, what's the recipe for being successful in that with like Summit and Jags and like these massive companies out there selling parts online?
uh, yeah, so we do see that, and like the market that we're in. So, like, just say for instance, the LS market. Uh, a lot of people, a lot of people tend to flock to certain companies. Generally, it's because like just say a company, and I'm not going to name any names, but there are several, and there's a couple of big ones that just kind of do whatever they can to try to run over everybody else, and they'll use their influence or their money to make sure they're buying as many customers as they can. So they'll give as much stuff away as they can to all the popular people, and then when all the popular people tell all the least less popular people, "Hey, go buy this," and then that's what happens, and it kind of snowballs into that. But yeah, we see that a lot. It is very difficult to compete in online sales because I feel like a lot of certain markets are I don't even want to say budget minded people. They're just people that are cheap and they don't want to spend money, and that's fine. Do what you can afford. Don't live above your means and all that stuff. I'm a big believer in that. I don't believe in living above your means. Um, but you have a lot of people that will use you up for information for
And then go buy somewhere
and
else.
then go buy it from Summit or
Yeah.
something, or somebody that that can't give them the information that they need, but they can give them $2 off. Um, so we see that happens quite a bit. It happens quite often, and it bothers me a lot when I see it happen. Um, it used to bother me more than it does now because now I've found a way to kind of deal with that, I guess. But when you're talking about competing against companies like Summit and Jags and things like that, their customer base is a little different too. So generally their customer base is a little older, and ours is somewhat younger. I would say on average probably 5 to 10 years younger. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you guys, you guys. But just as an average, I think it's because it's been around so long and it's known, and this just the way that things are. But it is very difficult competing in the online space, and honestly, it feels to me like it's became more of a popularity contest than it is anything about product quality or anything like that.
It's funny that you said that about people, just trying to get all the information, go buy somewhere else for $2 less. Like today, I have a company that I would say they kind of sponsor me. Like I get discounts and help and stuff like that. And I had to order some throwout bearings. Um, and so I called them up, and they were more, even with my discount, it was more expensive than Summit. And I'm just like, whatever. Because it was like, I don't know, $8 more because I ordered like two of them, or 10, whatever, 10, or even if it was 20. I have gotten more than $20 of value from them, so it's fine. Like
Yeah.
I was like, really? It's more
Yeah.
than that, even with my discount. But whatever, I'm not going to complain about it because they've been so valuable and helpful to me over the years that whatever. It their support has been well worth the $10 extra it cost me. So
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Like price shopping, like there's so much more to it than the actual price you're paying. Like you guys, for example, you've got the support, you've got the knowledge, you've got the staff, you have the want that you want to help the customer. And man, how do you put a number on that?
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like you can't.
no, you can't.
Well, I kind of giggle actually when I'm on Messenger, and it's like that Matt Goins. Does he ever even sleep? Like he's always on there. I'm thinking that guy's working all the time, and he probably gets messages all the time because people see you on there, probably ask you all kinds of questions. Probably some are getting free advice, and hopefully, the majority of the people, especially people who listen to this, are, if you're gonna take up somebody's time, you, you really need to be buying from them. Like I like to think that I'm a very good customer and that I don't just won't do that. Like if I'm gonna call up and somebody's gonna spend half an hour with me, they deserve my money. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
unless they're yelling at me or something. But I haven't had that experience yet. So, um,
Yeah.
but I think, anyways.
Yeah. Like one of my goals is to, and the reason that I'm always trying to help as many people as I can is because I want people to know that we care. And, what better way than to just try to head that up myself? I can't think of a better way personally. And I don't know. To me, if I saw someone out there um, willing to help, as much as they could, that would inspire me to be on their team or to be on their side or to want to do business with them or to, want to do anything for them. And I am that way with a few different people now. Like there's a few people I look to for inspiration, and um, some of them a lot of people know, some of them nobody will never know, and I kind of view it daily, like, and that's how they are, and that's kind of what I want to be. I want to be helpful. I don't want to be a bad business. I don't want to be a bad business person. I don't want somebody saying, that Matt, he's a real piece of work, things like that. That kind of stuff bothers me because I don't want that to be me. So I feel like I'm doing as much as I can to make sure people realize that.
Well, I think you're doing a good job.
Yeah. Let me, I could jump in. First, I'm going to tell you a quick Pro Charger story. I had a Pro Charger on my GTO for a while, and
it sounded broken all the time.
well, they do.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
they're
was.
Pro Chargers are definitely noisy. But anyways, it was progressively getting worse, where it was like completely shutting off at like certain RPMs. It started at like 5,500 RPM, and all of a sudden, the thing would just stop, and then you let off the gas, and it would come back, and everything would be fine. And what triggered me is your story about how you were rerouting the Pro Charger to get cold air in. And well, I had done the same thing, but I had done it with a silicone elbow. And it really got worse at like while we were cruising around one night while there was this big show in town, and I parked in this dirty parking lot. And so the air filter, when I parked in a dirty parking lot, just got dirtier. And so I finally figured out that what was going on is it was collapsing the tube completely in and shutting all the air off to the motor. And then I let off the gas and it would come back. So while you're under the hood and you're looking for the problem, you never seen it until I revved it up while I was under the hood. But it was like, yeah, that was fun. Don't put a silicone elbow on the inlet with a dirty air filter because you're going to be fighting with that for a while. The second story I wanted to say was when I first built my GTO, I had a hydraulic clutch in it, all hydraulic setup. Eventually, I ended up with a Rob Youngblood dual disc in it, and I fought with the throwout bearing back then. I was getting lots of comments from Rob about, obviously you don't have enough clearance between the throwout bearing and the fingers, and that's why it's slipping on you. And I was pretty convinced that what I didn't, but at the same time, much like what you've built, it was really hard to understand what kind of clearance I had, right? Just because of the hydraulic. So tell us a little bit about your new hydraulic throwout. So I went back to Z-Bar on my car, and I've been Z-Bar ever since. But I think you're the only one who's designed something to solve that problem when it comes to adjustable clutches.
Yeah, and that's one of those things too that I really get a lot of enjoyment out of, is somebody coming to me with a problem and me trying to fix it. So because of Jonathan and because of me, having firsthand experience with the constant issues that come along with adjustable clutches and hydraulic systems, it led me down a path of thinking like, hey, well, what can we do to solve this? What can we do to make this better? And, a lot of people are like, well, you can't do anything. It's got to be mechanical. I'm like, well, I don't believe that. I think there's a way to make it different. Like, I don't want to tell somebody with a late model car that they got to get in there and cut that thing up. So, I started collecting information from everyone I knew, everyone I was talking to, like, hey, what are your main problems? What problems do you have going on? And I slowly started to realize that there were a couple of big problems. And one of the big ones is if you have a clutch that has a lot of, excuse me, if you have a lot of lever travel, so like something like an advanced, or there's a couple of places out there that make the over the pressure plate lever style that has a lot of movement, free play in it. Those are really bad when it comes to using hydraulics with them, because they throw the bearings so far away that a lot of these guys doing their burnout, and they can't get the car back out of gear after they've done their burnout. They got to pump the clutch 2 or 3 times just to get it out of gear.
Mm.
Well, that's a safety problem. So that's a big one. Ripping it up in the pit. Yeah. Run over somebody or hit the tree or something like that. Can't get it out of gear. And then just like trying to get it in reverse in the pits after you revved it up and you're messing with it and things like that, and never having a consistent pedal feel. So that was the next big thing, was like you'd push the pedal and there's nothing there because the bearing's just floating through the air to get back to the levers, right? So there's no pressure, there's no feedback, there's none of that. So, and a lot of these guys are trying to drive these things, right? Drag and drive stuff. We'll talk about that too, but drag and drive stuff was one of the primary complaint areas, was guys trying to drive with an adjustable clutch and hydraulics. It was miserable because you just couldn't shift, you couldn't take off at stoplights, and it just had all kinds of problems. So that's what kind of led me down the path of trying to figure that out. And so basically, it's pretty simple. You don't want the bearing to touch the levers, right? They don't need to touch it. If they interact with the levers, the clutch is not doing its job to its fullest potential, or whatever, however you want to word it. But that thing also needs to go back to the same position every time. It doesn't need to be just wherever it ends up. So all mechanical, just make it mechanically go back home. Have it where it brings itself all the way back and it's out of the way. And then next time you push the clutch pedal, it goes out to where you need it to go. And getting a certain amount of bearing travel is nothing more than math. You know how much volume is coming out of your master cylinder. You know how much volume is in your release bearing. And so therefore, you know how much it takes to move that thing as far as you need it to move. And, it was pretty simple from there. It was easy to figure out. I think when I first started the project, I spent more time trying to overcomplicate what I was building. And we made like 3 or 4 different versions, and we tested 2 versions before we came out with the one we have now. And we actually have another version coming out once this one is sold out, and we only have like 2 left. So our next batch is going to be a revised version of what everybody's been getting. And that's something else. I like to constantly try to make things better. But yeah, so the bearing works really well. And even the prototype one that I originally did for a guy, he was able to, he had to completely change his clutch tune up. So he found that when he'd launched the car, that using the same base and counterweight that he normally would use, the clutch would pretty much lock up solid compared to what it did before. And that's a result of the bearing hey, let's
Touching
get out of the
fingers.
way and not have this interaction. So he was actually able to run less counterweight on that combo and get the car to go faster just in general, 60 foot, 330, eighth mile, just the whole way down the track, but especially the front half of the track because the clutch was a lot happier. The clutch wasn't as hot during the pass either because it didn't slip as much as it had to before to get to the point of being locked up. So I kind of knew we had something there. One of my things was, we can make reaction time better too, because I noticed that a lot of those stick guys have really bad reaction times, and I don't know that that's a product of the hydraulic system necessarily. But one of the goals was to help that that area too. Make all that system work faster, help them get better reaction times. And I have seen that on data logs. It does react faster, and the one that we're getting ready to release reacts probably twice as fast as the one we have out now. So it's pretty exciting. It's pretty cool to see like so many people be excited about a solution to a problem that apparently was bigger than I ever dreamed.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I've told lots of people like before you built that one that if you've got a mechanical setup like a 65 GTO, use it because if you're going to use an adjustable clutch, because you can see everything, and I think you came up with a fantastic solution there. So that's pretty awesome. All of us stick guys appreciate any creativity when it comes to that stuff and solving some of the problems that we have, and we have a lot of problems. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. And some
Those-
of them I don't know if we can solve or not, but it's
Yeah.
fun trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think a lot of those problems happen long before we get in the car.
That I'll agree with.
Oh man. Let's see. I had another question. So now I'm understanding that the transmission side is not the main business that you guys do, but
Mhm.
what is your typical transmission build? I guess we'll start there. I have a couple of questions around this, but what's your typical transmission build?
Okay, so we do still do a lot of builds, and we do a lot of rebuilds. So anything late model that came with a Tremec, we pretty much offer a rebuild for it, including we're now doing that TR3160 that comes in stuff like that car over there. But we do probably more stock rebuilds than we do anything. So guys just say it's Hellcat Challenger or something like that, and they'll ring off the input shaft or the output shaft. That's a really weak point in those cars, the output shaft. And they'll send it into us to be freshened up. And, we'll do new blocker rings, new parts that need to be replaced. We do cryo treatment and rim polish at TIC. So we do all that stuff there, and we offer those services. And then obviously you guys know about the internal pieces that we make that you can upgrade to.
Mm-hmm.
But we probably do more with stock gears than we do anything, because a lot of guys are just, on a budget and they want to rebuild what they've got. They've got something that's broken, or they just want their stock unit to be a little bit stronger or a little bit better. So our number one, as far as transmissions, is going to be rebuilding what came in OE cars.
And okay, and what is your favorite? Is my second question. What's the favorite transmission to build?
Sequentials.
Oh,
yeah, sequentials are awesome.
And so what? Okay, so let's dive into that a little bit. What is this, a modified transmission, or like what sequential transmissions are there?
So my guys are really good. So I don't build any transmissions myself. We have four guys that work on transmissions, and they have got that stuff down to a science. So anything that's dog ring, G-Force is easier to put together than PPG, but anything that's dog ring, they can knock out pretty quick. But sequentials are just special, man, because they got the cool shifter on them. They got the cool sensor on them that can tell you what gear it's in. You just pound it forward and backward, and you can put paddle shifters on it. I don't know. There's just something about a sequential. And one of the other cool things about sequentials is that we can do a 6-gear 1-to-1 when we build those things. And most of the guys that's getting a sequential, they're drifting or they're road racing. So it's something different that I get to experience that I don't normally experience. Like everything I've ever done has been drag racing, aside from a few like autocross events when I was younger. So the sequential stuff really makes me happy to see come through there, because I just feel like it's a different type of scenario that we're getting involved in. And I really love to see it.
Is that only T56 based, like Magnums and stuff, or is there other transmissions that you?
No, it's mainly T56 based stuff.
Yeah.
And it is funny you mentioned that though, that we're going to be doing some PPG stuff for Honda transmissions that are sequential as well, and that's not something that we're going to put out as a tech product. That's for somebody else. But again, PPG stuff, so that's kind of what led us down that path. But yeah, most of that stuff is Tremec based, so a lot of it is going to be OE case, but there are billet case options uh, for the sequential stuff. And one of the problems with the sequential or doing like a fifth gear, sixth gear, 1-to-1 deal is that the factory case, you have to open it up and modify it and like literally cut it out and then weld stuff back in to get the gears to fit because they're so much bigger. Because they move, in location. But yeah, they're all Tremec based. All those things are Tremec based.
Are you guys also I don't know if the terminology is right, but a Tremec reseller? Like if I want to buy a brand new Tremec transmission, can I call Matt up and buy one?
Yep, absolutely. We're not labeled as an elite distributor, but you can buy a brand new box stock unit from us.
Nice.
And do you sell parts for the trans too? Like if I wanted to buy blockers and stuff for my 2010 Camaro, you guys sell that stuff too?
Okay. We do, because we keep, like I say, we do a lot of rebuilds, so we have all that stuff on the shelf. We probably have, I'm going to say we have probably in the neighborhood of $100,000 worth of parts on the shelf, just for rebuilds.
I think that transmission was a little grindy when I drove it, Rich.
Well, it wasn't before, but
it's not my fault. Yeah. It never is my fault.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And G-Force, actually, I don't think they're really not putting them together anymore. I think there's a couple of people, yourself, RPM, for example, you guys are the ones that are taking the gear sets and putting them together. They're just manufacturing the gears mainly, right?
Yeah, it's very rare that they'll put one together for somebody anymore. I believe. I think they've kind of stepped away from that because they don't have the manpower to keep up with what they've got going on.
Yeah. So, okay, so you guys are partnered with Tremec. Sounds like you're partnered up with G-Force. Who are the other company partnerships that you guys have? Like that, I guess. I don't know if that's the right question, but
when it comes to transmission stuff, it's going to be PPG. So PPG, G-Force, and Tremec are the main three players that we deal with. We do have some some shops that specialize in things like Vipers and things like that will use our components, but most of those companies are building transmissions themselves as well.
Oh, so here's a question on your intercoolers. Whose cores do you run?
So I've used a couple of different ones in the past, but the ones that I use now are basically like a Garrett core, but I don't have to get them from Garrett.
I've heard Garrett's are the best you can get, but they're limited on sizing.
They are limited on sizing. That's kind of why I had to go around the whole Garrett scenario. Plus, companies like Garrett, they want you to pick for what they have in the catalog, and then they want you to tell them how many you're going to sell in a year. So I was like, well, I honestly don't know. So, what do we need to do here? But I got it figured out.
Nice. That's awesome.
Let's you mentioned Drag and Drive. I know Aaron White. I think you guys know Aaron White pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's an interesting one because he's worked for cup companies and thought I'm gonna go do a Drag and Drive with a buddy, and they have struggled, and it's almost somewhat humbling to watch because I've done 21 of them, 21 and a quarter or a fifth Blasco. But that was very nice. But it's quite a challenge, and it is, the popularity of it is amazing. And I mean, the T56 Magnum is such a perfect transmission for it. Like when I think about the success that I've had, I think largely it's due to the fifth and sixth gear and the low RPM cruising, and you're not beating up on stuff. And then when you want to beat on it, like you can beat the heck out of those transmissions. They are amazing. Like the abuse they'll take. And like my car is 4,000 pounds and 1,500 horsepower, and it's just that I'm just amazed at how well those transmissions will take it. Now, don't get me wrong, I've bent input shafts, I've twisted yokes, but all that stuff continues to get upgraded, right? Like they've got a 29 spline input shaft. You guys have solved the output. So yeah, it's cool to see. Are you seeing a lot of drag and drive customers and stuff now?
So drag and drive type builds, or really, honestly, guys that are buying drag and drives, what I would consider drag and drive trans, which is a like a dog ring 1 through 4, synchronized 5th and 6th, most popular drag and drive build that we do. That's one of our biggest sellers when it comes to the transmission side of things. And whether they're actually taking in drag and drive or they're just driving it on the street, man, some of those guys even road race with that transmission because they want that dog ring engagement.
Yeah, we got to convince PPG to do that exact thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll do it. Like right now, I mean, my transmission that's at your shop, it's dog ringed all the way to 6. What the hell do you need a dog ring 0.63 for? Like, you know how fast I would be going in my old jalopy if I'm slamming it into 6th gear at 7,000 RPM? Oh my God, there'd be like...
Yeah. So if 6th gear was 1-to-1, that'd make sense.
So what I want to know is how many people call you and say, I want the Rich Guido transmission. Which one is that?
So, this is funny. We've actually had people do that. We've had people call and ask for that. I've never been the one on the phone telling them what to get, but I do know that we have had that phone call.
It was funny. I was talking to Finnegan, and we talked for probably 45 minutes. And at that time, like I was dealing with G-Force, and it was when Mark was still selling them, and I was literally messaging Mark in the background. And by the time I called Mark after I got off the phone call with Finnegan called up Mark, and he's like, "Give me the Rich Guido special." And then he goes and breaks it, and he like breaks the output. I'm like, dude,
it breaks everything.
Yeah. Anyways, he finished sick week in one piece, and other than some clutch issues, it's a success. He'll get there.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I actually look forward to coming down and seeing you guys. And I don't know, like that Streetcar Bragging Rights, that event. I think there's 50 stick cars. There was 50 spots, and they're all sold out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every event sold out, or every class. I mean,
that is nuts. Like stick car racing is it's gone absolutely. Like there's some of the biggest classes at a bunch of these drag and drives.
Yeah, it's alive, and I love it because it's by far the most interesting. I love going to a race like when I go to World Cup or something. When I went to this last World Cup in Maryland, man, there was a car running 8.0s that made it to the semifinals.
Yeah,
against cars running 6s, and that's just what's so awesome about stick racing. It's so unpredictable, and everybody's got a chance. It's just so much fun to see.
Yeah,
that is awesome. So, like, on the transmissions that you do, what is the most bizarre transmission rebuild you've been a part of, or crazy stories, or just anything like, just not normal?
We have seen transmissions come in that were in a fire. We have seen transmissions come in that look like they were at the bottom of the ocean, like literally with sand in them. We have seen transmissions packed full of mud. Man, it's hard to pick one as like the most bizarre because we've seen so much wild stuff. But the ones that come in that are broken in ways that you couldn't imagine things being broken.
Finnegan.
Yeah, exactly. So like the whole side of the tail housing's gone. Like, how does that happen? I've never seen that. And
do you call them back and you're like, the main case is the only salvageable piece here. Like that's it.
Yeah. That's up there with some of that bizarre stuff. Like, how does that happen? We've seen them come in with no fluid in them. That's always nice because everything in it's ruined then.
Oh yeah.
When you got to make that phone call, they're like, "Well, what do you mean everything is ruined? You know, you're trying to rip me off. Like, no, it didn't have any fluid in it. Like, it did too. I remember putting it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The worst break I had, and this was before, and part of the reasons that I got your upgraded forks was I was at King of the Open Road, and I think I went from second into third, or when I went into, I think I went into third, and something broke, and then like every stick guy, I tried to find another gear, and then I put it in two gears at once, and then it broke. So the fork was broke, and then it locked the drive shaft up solid, and then it broke the yoke on the diff. And I was in Oklahoma, and my home is a long ways. But the funny part is as I roll off the track, the drive shaft falls out of the car, like right as I'm turning the corner. So I didn't oil the track down or anything, and I literally hear it fall off, and so I stop and I get out, and the lady is already there in the scooter, and she's kicking my drive shaft off the track, and I'm like, "Whoa, hold on! I didn't bring a spare one of those.
I still need that.
I still need that." And we went back to the pits. I had a spare center section. I had my spare transmission, and so within, I think it was within an hour and a half, I was completely back up and running. But yeah, it was pretty funny. That was one of my worst breaks because now I've got two broken parts and drive shaft that's been kicked around. But anyways, I made it home. So
That's a rough day.
that's a rough day though.
So I have a story here too, which is actually what led me to get to the G-Force. When I very first made the switch to a T56 Magnum, right out of the gate, I ordered from Liberty a face-plated T56 Magnum, and I ran it. It was great. And then I had a seal fail in the rear seal fail at the track, and there was like it was weird. Like I was like, oh, there's a little bit of seal this here. I was like, oh, it's fine. And so I made another pass and then drove the car home. Well, it had like almost no fluid in it or something. And I realized that when I got home, I was like, oh crap. And I added like 2 quarts or something. And then drove it the next day just to a car show. And I got on it just a very little bit on the street with the street tire. Like it's never going to get traction anyway. And it broke. And when I pulled it out, like that main cluster had gotten so hot that it was just brittle, and it broke like 4 teeth off of it. And, and then at that point I don't know if I got parts or I sent it back to Liberty to get it fixed, but their time frame was really, really long. So I called Mark and ended up with one of the prototype T56 Magnums with their gear set in it. And when I got that one back from Liberty, I didn't install it or anything. I sold it just as is. And I'm sure it's like, I never had any problems with it until I ran out of fluid. And that was the problem, apparently.
It is interesting. That's a good question. Does Tremec still install that seal that doesn't have the steel reinforced edge? And do you hear of those popping out? Because I had that, so I put in one of the, I think it's a Viper one or something that has the steel outer seal, because the ones that you order, they just tuck right in there, right? And they're just rubber. They have no steel on them. Have you seen those pop out?
Once or twice. We've seen some stock units have some seal problems. I've never seen one just come out, but I have seen like a brand new one be leaking before.
Oh. Yeah, mine popped right out.
Yeah,
lots of oil disappears rather quickly. Hey, Bill.
Yeah, it'll come right out of there really quick.
Yeah.
I have seen, speaking of bizarre things, I have seen a brand new, completely box stock unit show up on a UPS truck, get bolted in a car, and not be able to go in gear, not be able to shift.
Oh, yeah.
And we've pulled those apart, and somehow the I forget the piece you call it, but it's like a little U shape, and it goes in there and it selects the pin that thing was literally broken in half. A brand new unit, it was broken in half. It had been on.
I wonder if it was when they screwed in the locking dowel, if it took a little extra force than normal or something. It must have been misaligned or something. Hey,
it had to have, because there's no way that could just randomly break. So
in
it had
Mexico,
to have been
just cranking on that thing. It's like, I'll get her in there.
up
Oh, they
there.
got an impact. Just they just don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so on the transmissions
Mhm.
and the parts you stock, you said like $100,000 worth of parts in stock. What are some of the hardest to find parts to get? And do you have any plans to manufacture parts like in house because stuff is just so hard to get or source, like rebuild stuff?
Yeah. CTSV main shafts, the hardest thing on the earth to get. You can't get them. And
Really?
then Corvette main shafts, you can't get those either.
They're longer, are they, Matt, than the
Mhm.
stock? Yeah.
Yeah. So CTSVs had that like a bolt-on style yoke, just like the all the new late model stuff has.
Yeah.
Um, so those main shafts in particular, they're all those type of transmissions like Ford, Chrysler, the GM one. They're all a little bit unique in their own way. I don't know why they decided to do that when they made a lot of the other components, completely interchangeable. They decided to do some different things when it comes to the main shaft. So some of the cars that came with 6060s, you don't have the ability to find some of the pieces.
Mm.
And realistically, anything T56 based, you just about can't get replacement parts for as far as good quality Tremec. The only thing we can do is get aftermarket stuff. And we have went to great lengths with the aftermarket sourcing to make sure that we're using something good because we've had a lot of problems with aftermarket parts too. But some of those parts there is no aftermarket piece for. I do have plans to do some of that Corvette stuff, and I actually just bought a machine a couple of weeks ago. We put it on order. I may have told you about this at PRI because I was literally fresh from the Mazak plant at PRI, and made the purchase on a mill turn. So we've got a big machine purchase that we made, and it's a very very high end machine. It has I'm gonna try to say it as best I can, but it has what they call scaling, which they all have scaling, but scaling on each axis that is super precise. So that way you can sync all your spindles basically exactly the same. I don't want to sound like an idiot, but I'm going to say it's 5 or 6 decimal places is how close they'll sync together. Um, basically, that machine is a high end version of a mill turn, and it has the ability to make gears super easy.
And you know
So
how to turn it on?
I do know how to turn this one on. I know where the
That's a
on
great
switch
start.
is. Yep, and I know how to put coolant in it. So there's a good start. But it has a lot of capability, and it has. So I have limited floor space, and I've got a lot of ideas and things that I want to do. So being able to get that machine, we were going to get a mill turn anyway, but being able to get one like that one is going to open a lot more doors than even I can think of right now.
That's cool, super cool.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, there are some components that aren't available that I want to be able to make because there are assemblies that I could make if these certain parts were available.
Hey, we got to. I was
That's
thinking
awesome.
while you were talking that one problem that both Bill and I have had, and Bill's made some modifications. I've tried a few different ones, but it's the roll pins in the transmissions that come out, and just about like I do quite a few up here too, quite a few stock ones and stuff just for buddies. And I mean, I've seen just about every roll pin in that T56 come out or break at
Mm-hmm.
one point or another. But definitely the top one. We were on a drag and drive with my brother. He's in sixth gear. He goes to shift out of sixth gear, and because we're getting close to the hotel, nothing. The shifter's got nothing anymore. So the roll pin has come out, and uh, he used up a little bit of clutch getting to the hotel. But the next morning, we had to pull it out and put a new roll pin in. So are you changing them up? I know that Mark had some, but the ones that he sent me, I'm actually they become loose too. So I was curious if you're working on anything there.
Yeah, we have what we do something in house now that we've not really had any problems from. So we just kind of keep doing that. But basically, it's two pins. So the big pin and then a pin inside of it, and
Oh,
you have to install it a certain way because the small pin presses into the big pin, right? So you get a double press effect, and you kind of have to start the small pin in the big pin and drive them both in together. A
oh,
little bit difficult to get together, but it fills that entire void with basically two presses. You got the small pin pressing against the big pin. It's already pressing against the hole. So that seems to work really well for us.
So let me ask. So there seems to be two different styles of roll pins. There's one that's just like a C,
Yeah.
which is probably the one you're talking about. But then there's the ones that are spiral, and it's
Well,
like
yeah.
spring steel.
Yeah.
And that's what in fact, I just ordered 2 more packs of 50. I got 100 of them.
Okay.
But those are the ones I've switched to. But from what Rich said, my co-pilot Jamie is a machinist, and like honestly, at this level, I don't know how anybody does this without having somebody or knowing somebody or being one yourself. But when my transmission's been apart, we have drilled both sides. I have double roll pins on both sides of that shifting, and since I've done that, yeah, it's been no issue at all.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't get loose. It's just double. It is what it is. But you have to. That stuff's all hardened. I mean, you've got to have the right. You can't just whip out your drill in a bit and do it. It's not going to happen.
Mm-mm,
So
mm-mm.
sorry, I seem distracted. I got a brand new puppy this week, and
Oh,
yes,
nice.
in fact,
I'm a dog lover.
hold on. Let me just grab her.
No, that's good. I appreciate you. I was going to say you don't have to answer that if you didn't want to, because it might be a trade secret. But that's
No, we give those things away. So if we have somebody that'll call and wants and says they have that problem, we'll give them some pins. Oh,
look at that, eh?
This is Maddie May, and she just drank a whole bunch of water. I'm sure she's gonna have to go out here in a second. So I'm gonna let Rich talk for a second. I'm gonna run her out. I'll be right back.
all right.
Yeah, I was trying to think what other customers that are close to you. I think Taylor Hedrick's close to you, and I was trying to get Taylor to get his button gear so he could finish his car, so he could have brought me my transmission down to Orlando, but that didn't quite work out. So not transmission related, but he had lots to do on that car. But it is super cool. I'd still be curious to know if Garrett, if Leroy videos are his best videos, because it just seems like stick car racing is just so darn popular, and everyone loves Leroy, but it's because it's a stick car, because it's the coolest
Yeah.
car.
Yeah, absolutely. And that guy, that guy does a lot of interesting things, and the whole Leroy thing with the body and making it open up like a Top Fuel car. That's hilarious. I love it. A lot of people complain about it, but I think it's awesome.
Oh, so do I. If you can have rules made because of what you're doing, that you're doing it right.
Right. Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
Like I can only imagine at World Cup that scene, and they made a scene of it. Like that's just what they do, and that was so awesome. I'm gonna make it to World Cup one of these days. Drive all the way down there, try to run maybe sub 850s, but and more importantly, try to drive all the way home. But yeah,
That's
really
a long trip.
Yeah, it's the car is comfy. It's a 65 GTO. It's got nice comfy seats in it, and it's got heat and a stereo. It's no air conditioning, but the windows, the quarter vent windows, and it's all good.
Yeah, works just fine, right?
That's
Well,
right.
the time of year to do World Cup anyway, you're going to need heat instead of air anyway.
Yeah, true. Especially leaving from up here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, leaving in snow.
Not sure what I missed, but that's okay.
I'm just looking at the list here to see what else we got going on.
Yeah. Did you ask him? We had a few questions listed. So Matt, what changes do you think you'd like to see in stick shift drag racing? I mean, it's growing really fast and just exploding, but what changes would you like to see?
Man, I really want to see somebody with a screw blower doing this. And there's something else that I've been wanting to do, and I could probably do it myself, but I haven't. I don't want to. I don't want to spend the money to do it. So I want to see a fifth gear 1-to-1 H pattern deal, and I want to see it on a screw blower car, like really badly. So I want to see something besides turbo guys going fast. That's the kind of changes that I want to see. I know nitrous can go fast. It's a little difficult with a stick, I guess, but like I want to see something besides turbo cars.
All right. So
yeah, there's probably lots of centrifugal blowers, but I don't know of any screw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, you got Finnegan with the Roots blower,
Yeah,
but not a screw blower because that's even more efficient and just
yeah,
like instant.
yeah. I want to see a big power screw blower set up on an H pattern. You know, somebody like Stevie Fast or somebody doing it. That's what I want to see. But
Okay.
I'm afraid that would ruin it, like the outlaw stuff. I'm afraid that would ruin it. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
yeah,
And so along that line, like if they did fifth is 1-to-1, a lot of people use the Vertigate on the 5-speed G-force transmissions. Do you think a Vertigate is still stick shift racing?
Stick shift racing, yes, I think it is. H
Okay.
pattern, no. I think H pattern is its own thing, and I think it needs to stay that way.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, that's good.
yeah. We had Jeff Zayas on, and he made a pretty funny video of going from a Vertigate to an H pattern. He's a character, so that was pretty funny. And I have a good friend up here, Brent. He's got a Vertigate and an H pattern for it. But yeah, I'm the same. I actually don't care. I mean, there's so many variables, and so much of it is clutch. And um, yeah, it's me personally, I think that stick racing is so popular now. You definitely, I think breaking up the field like they're going to do at Streetcar Bragging Rights, where it's like the top 16 and the bottom 16. You have to do something because
Yeah,
it's just nuts. And like as soon as you start getting into the, is it synchronized? Is it face plated? Is it a diaphragm clutch? It's like, yeah, I'm same thing. It's like, pick your poison. I mean, my car's 4,000 pounds. So what is the equalizer there if I'm racing a
yeah,
2,000 pound car with a synchronized transmission? Like, there's a bunch of different stuff. Like, in my opinion, unless you're running the event, read the rules, show up, and race the rules. And
yep,
don't complain about the rules because it's not your event. If you want to do an event and race it, go ahead. But until you're going to do that, I think, yeah, just
There's lots of
show up
people
and
doing events now for sure.
oh
So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, a lot of them, and that's something that I get probably. I don't want to say weekly, but at least every 2 weeks, somebody wanting me to sponsor an event.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
We weren't here for that, just so you know. That's not what we were just reading. It's like,
What
why
do you
did
guys think about? What do you guys think about no prep stick racing?
I've tried it, and I can tell you that my car is not set up for no prep. Like, you need to have those front struts where you can get massive weight transfer going. It's a challenge. Yeah, I'm not a no prep guy. My car just doesn't work very well on it for one.
yeah,
So
I would say I learned a lot this year about power management and how hard you hit the tire on the launch and pulling timing. And like I was in Alien City racetrack in Roswell, New Mexico, and it's on an airport. And I think I only got like 3 or 4 hits, but I did a 6.0, and I was pretty impressed with that for my car. And
Yeah,
so for me, honestly, I've done, because I've done so many drag and drive, I'm actually looking for some of these little ones. Like Streetcar Bragging Rights is one where it's like it's not a drag and drive. It's still a long drive for me, and I will be dragging, so it's a different kind. But and Yellow Belly is the other one. Like I'm actually looking forward to some of these 3-day events, um, just to try to expand my skills. So I think it's super cool to try to figure that stuff out because it'll just make me better when I go and do a drag and drive and I end up on a track that I'm not very, that isn't prepped very well. Florida is always an interesting one, right? Like Sick Week, because they're flypaper tracks. Like they're all like if you want to go the fastest you're going to go, that's the place to go. Um, but if you really want to challenge yourself, it's some of these other drag and drives where the prep is all over the place. One day you end up with great prep, and the next day you're like, oh my god.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I like it all. I think it's super cool. I don't know that I'll ever do it back at the track, but I might. I might go do something with Turbo John and and try the back of the track just to see. I tried it once. It was horrible. Like, I was so bad. I didn't know what I know now, but yeah, I'm very intrigued by it. I think for me, it's all about challenging myself to see how fast I can go down so many different surfaces and stay ahead of Bill.
Well, I beat you up for years, man, and now you've just buried me so far. So I deserve it for sure. But I think on a radial for sure that would be real challenging. I tried a back half event here, and I literally couldn't turn the car down enough. Like on wastegate, it was still spinning the whole way down. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. It was tough. Like it was hard to get the car in the sixes, in the eighth. Like, and seeing these guys that were prepped for no prep stuff, like they were fast, but they were like, I mean, it was like they had Baja suspension on the front of the car. I was like, wow, what is going on? Like I'd never seen that before, and it was pretty crazy. So yeah, she didn't pee, by the way. She ran back in. So I'm waiting. Hopefully I don't have a wet cleanup coming on aisle, whatever.
So Matt, tell us more about your third gen Camaro.
Third gen Camaro. So that is the same car from the Johnny story, from original Tick Performance. That's the same one that I have now. So I've had it since I was 15 years old, and it has went through several different versions, I'm going to say, of itself. And prior to being the stick car that it is currently, and I haven't driven it as a stick car yet, but prior to being what it is now, I ran a class with what they called Ultra Street, like at what they used to do at SGMP and stuff. They still do it, but it's gotten really out of hand, which is one of the reasons I quit doing it. But it was a centrifugal blower, made about 1,700 horsepower, run 460s. It was really fun. It was a lot of maintenance, and those guys are running like 440s. I think they've even dipped into the 30s at this point. And
Wow.
The rule set for Ultra Street is crazy, like 76 millimeter turbo. Your head unit could be an F1A 94, or in my case, I was running the YSIB Vortec, so 94 millimeter blower. The same stuff that people bolt on their C6 Corvettes so they can make 900 horsepower. We were pushing them far beyond what should have been capable. And it was fun, but it was, like I say, it was a lot of maintenance. And I kind of had got to a point where I didn't have enough time for it. So I kind of took all that stuff apart and kind of sold it off. And it's just kind of been sitting around. Well, then, once I bought Tick, I was like, you know what? I need a way to test some of this stick shift stuff personally. So I decided to throw something together for it. And now it's just basically a 440-inch LS. It's going to be naturally aspirated. Nothing super fancy or special. It's honestly a lot of like Facebook Marketplace kind of parts that I found for the engine. So super cheap, nothing crazy, nothing too exciting. I expect it to make 700 horsepower or so. So it ought to be fun. The car's pretty light, so it's about, I want to say 2,600 pounds with me in it. So yeah, it's pretty light, but it's got a drag and drive 6-speed in it, so synchronized fifth and sixth. And I built a trailer hitch for the car.
Nice.
And I'm going to try to do some of those events if I can get enough time. Usually, if I take a week away from work, it's a nightmare when I get back. So I don't know if I'll be able to do it or not, but I'm going to at least give it a try. Give it a try at some point to do a drag and drive with that car.
Yeah, Devin's event is really close to you, right? The street meet.
Yeah. So that's one that I'll be able to do. Probably the easiest of anything.
Yeah. Super cool. I'm going to warn you now, it's a little bit addictive.
Yeah.
What I like about it, and I think you'll fit right in, is that the people who do those events, they're willing to fix it on the side of the road. They are get her done type people, right? And I think that's what brings that whole community together. Is there's not very many of them will give up. Like there's the odd one that shows up in a vehicle that they didn't build, and they can have a small problem and they're out. But the majority will do whatever it takes. The craziness that I've seen, Jeff Lutz's car ripped right apart and with all the parts on the Aussie Chevelle. like half the like literally pistons out on the side of the road using another car as a
in
table.
the dirt on a blanket.
Yeah, exactly. And get it all back together and keep going. Like, that's pretty awesome. That those type of people are my kind of people. Like,
Yeah,
so,
I don't know that I'm that extreme anymore, but you never know. I guess it depends on how things are going.
yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you there's been a couple of times when, and even this last summer, where I was like, man, I don't have the skill set to do this. I'm out. And other people that were there were like, oh, I got the parts, or I can do this, I can do that. And they push you and they help you. And next thing you know, you're back on the road.
Yeah.
Like
That's
I
awesome.
broke a ring and pinion, and I'm forgetting his name right now, but he has that Pontiac wagon, or what was the wagon, Rich?
Oh, you're talking about Rick Gray. It's
Yes,
actually
yes.
yeah, it's a Suburban. It's a Mopar Suburban.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah.
And he had the parts, and he helped me put a center section back together. And then we got back to my house and we took it out, and I gave him all his parts back. But but I wouldn't have been able to finish without his help. So yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah,
But
if you were with us at that event, Matt, you would have been like Matt Frost came over, and let's see, Bill had broken his chassis and his rear end. Rick Gray had broken, I think, had broken his rear end. Tess and Tony had broken their transmission, and then another guy had broken his transmission. all of us were parked together, and it was
yeah,
like
yeah.
stick shift chaos. The funny part is we're all smiling and getting her back together. So I'm sure I broke
Yeah.
something too. I just can't remember.
Oh man, yeah. It is addictive. I mean, I've lost count. Rich, you said you're 20 something down. I'm not that far behind you, except for the first race week. I've done all of them, and then a number of other ones together with him. And yeah, it's careful. It's like heroin. It's pretty great. You might want to try it again. so just know that going into it. But yeah, it's good stuff. So
That's
And
awesome.
your Camaro is just going to be on pump gas then if it's naturally aspirated?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna run it on 93. That way, I don't have to worry about anything.
yeah,
Well,
I
it's
think that's a
93
good
out here.
plan.
I guess it's probably 91 out there, maybe.
Well, it's only 91 here because of the altitude.
Yeah,
You need less octane with altitude, but once you go down the hill a couple of states, it becomes 93. So it's all
gotcha.
good.
Cool. Well, on
All right.
that drag and drive subject, like what we were talking about earlier.
Dragon Drive? Isn't
Yeah,
that trademarked or something?
yeah. Apparently,
It's silly, honestly. I mean, there was some news out today. I saw a post from Adam Dory about it, and that was all I know. But I think you knew something else about it, right?
I don't really know anything else about the situation. I really don't know a whole lot about the situation. I don't have time to keep up with that kind of stuff. I'll rely
Yeah.
on other people to tell me what's going on. But um, uh, someone sent me a clip of a guy named Cooper. What'd you say his
Bogetti.
last name was?
Bogetti? Yeah.
Yeah,
Bogetti, yeah.
he was talking about it, and I guess there's been legal action taken on somebody using the name Dragon Drive. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's drag dash in dash drive. Does that sound right? Like,
Yeah, he's got like three, like he's got three different versions or something
Iterations, yeah.
that he's trademarked. And you know, for me, my 2 cents is David Freiberger is the one that created Dragon Drive. If there's anybody that should get any kickbacks from it, it would be him, and he doesn't want any. Like he was just happy to bring the community together, and I will tell you, and so will this guy. Like it's a pretty tight knit group to piss off. Like
mm,
you got a war on your hands, so yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it shows you the community and how tight knit the group is, and so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes for him.
so the interesting part that I mentioned in my message earlier was the guy, I guess, that has it trademarked or who's doing the lawsuit or doing the suing or whatever's going on, that guy has emailed me today before I knew about anything that we were just talking about. Emailed us today, sent me an email because he wants to come visit us or talk to us about our drag and drive transmissions. That's literally what the email says.
Oh.
So now I'm like, after I didn't respond. I didn't have time to respond today. I'm moving machines and stuff tomorrow. I've been doing electrical stuff today. I haven't been in my emails today very much. And I get that email and I'm looking at my emails because I'm having to find the email where you guys sent me the link for this. And I see that's there. And I remember somebody said something to me about somebody wanting to come talk to us about drag and drive stuff. Somebody that does Midwest drags. And one of the salesmen had told me that. So I looked at that email and I'm like, man, what is that? I need to respond to that guy tomorrow. And then immediately after that, my phone dings, and it's literally a link to a video of what we're talking about, of that guy Cooper talking about apparently a lawsuit from the guy that just emailed me about drag and drive transmissions. Now, what do you think that email is going to lead to?
You know what I think?
Back.
You know what I think, Matt? I think he just ought to leave it alone.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to let it lie because I put the word drag and drive on a listing on the internet. I mean, what is that about?
Like I thought, previously this came up, and then I thought they'd settled it, and he was like, "Oh, it's not that big a deal. I just wanted to protect it for the community." I think I remember him saying something like that. But then this stuff erupts again, and it's like, man, you're not going to get value out of this. I just don't see it. And if you're going to push a lawsuit through, and you're trying to hold an event, good luck that anybody's going to show up. Like I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. But like I did that event years ago, and it was good. It was a good event. In fact, I won the stick shift class. I had my first 8-second average for the whole event at that event. But because of this, I would definitely think going back.
Yeah, there's lots of options now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's yeah. you have multiple events going on in the same time period, so I don't know that I would. It would make me think about it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What I actually, the flip side is, it is good for all the manufacturers. Drag and drive the amount of cars that are built now because of drag and drive and that are actually out there driving. It's great for people like you who are doing good work, Matt, and other suppliers of products and that they're proud of. Sometimes some of that stuff gets showcased. Like it's unfortunately that Clint Sadowski didn't have his car out because it would have been great to see Stefan's motor get beat on all week and to see how well it performed. But
what happened with Clint? I guess I didn't realize he wasn't there, but he was supposed to be. What happened?
Parts supply.
I know he had a lot to get done before the event, and I know it sounds like Dennis Taylor got his piece done with the chassis and roll cage and stuff.
Yeah,
there was more stuff, right?
Yeah. It still feels like, and probably Matt could tell us better, because I feel that at work too, is that ever since COVID, it seems like people are still having labor challenges with people actually wanting to come to work and work.
Yeah.
Because, during COVID, they could work from home and so when you need them to actually show up at work, sometimes that's difficult. I'm very fortunate that I've got great workers that work with me, and they all show up when they're supposed to. But
yeah,
I hear it all the time. It doesn't matter if it's piston manufacturers or who it is. Like they struggle with labor, especially when you want to make good parts and you need good people to do that. That's a huge challenge. So
yeah, it's definitely still a problem. I don't know how long it's going to take for that stuff to iron itself out, but it's taking longer than I imagined it would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys survive the big storm and everything, Matt? Like, did your family or anybody get hit with the?
So we were without power for a couple of days here where we're at. Um, but no, I don't have any direct family that was affected. I do know several people that were, and I do know I have a lot of customers that aren't, necessarily just customers that live in the area of where the storm came through. They're still being affected now. People are still living in tents out there. So I do have a lot of I guess people that were affected by it, but no one that was family. No.
Are you saying the $740 they're getting from the government isn't going to take care of it?
Yeah, that's definitely not gonna. That's not gonna cut it. That's not.
Okay.
And it's funny too, and I won't get political or anything, but it's a lot worse than anyone knows or anyone's been told. And I don't know why it's not being told. I don't know why it's not being shared. If a hurricane came through and took out, honestly, even anywhere in our country, but especially in the Caribbean or something, if a hurricane comes through there, it's all over the news. 600 people have died in this hurricane, and 40 houses got blew into the ocean and stuff like that. And they have no problem telling you, but I don't know why it's a problem to tell people what's happened up here. Like,
Well, yeah, I think it's because it was so mishandled
yeah,
under the administration that it happened under, that we know how the media is. It's very much on the left, and why would they want to say anything bad about that? It's complete bullshit. I mean,
yeah,
it's not fair. And again, I don't want to get political either, but the pendulum is moving in the other direction, and we're starting to see some of that. And
yeah.
boy, people are just on fire about it, and it's hilarious, actually. I mean, all the beggars and thieves, man, they're getting ousted, and they don't like it.
Yeah, who shouts first is the guilty party, and
That's right. He who
you
smells
see
it
who's been
felt it.
shouting really loud lately.
That's right. You 100%,
Yeah.
100%. So, huh? You got any questions for us, Matt?
That whole drag and drive situation was my main question. I talked to enough of you guys, not you two particularly, but enough of you drag and drive guys, enough that I've had a lot of my questions about drag and drive stuff answered. And I talked to enough stick guys that I've had a lot of questions answered that way too. I guess so. Like, I'm very new to podcasts. I don't really, I don't really have a whole lot of free time to watch podcasts and stuff like that. And usually I just turn music on in the background or something because I'm not going to be able to really pay attention to what people are saying anyway. So I guess my question is, what made you guys want to do this? Like, what made you guys want to start a podcast? Because I feel like stuff like that's interesting.
Dude, it's the most selfish answer on the planet Earth.
But that's
How
fine.
else? How else can we talk to people that we want to know stuff about? Like, like I don't care who listens because it's like 3 or 4 people, but we get to talk to people like Stephen Rossi, engine builder. We can ask him all these questions. Like, I can't pick up the phone and have an hour or 2 hour conversation with you on the phone, Matt, about
Yeah,
your business and your employees and all that. So it's 100% selfish.
I understand. That makes sense.
I mean, I'm being
Hey,
honest.
I get it. I like to know people, and I like to know things like that. So I mean, I think it's a great reason.
Yeah, and it really is. I mean, we're so fortunate. I mean, we've had so many of the fast guys. Jonathan, Nick Coleman, and yeah, I mean, selfishly, that's why we did it. But I tell you what, it is so interesting to listen to the different strategies, and stick car racers are amazing with the info they'll give us. Like, I just can't believe it. Like the stuff that I learned from Nick. We were talking tires with Jonathan. Garrett. We were talking, literally about YouTube and everything, and it's just been fantastic. That little tip you gave us on roll pins. I mean, that those little nuggets are
That's
amazing
cool.
for the
Yeah.
community. And the people at PRI at events that I go to, like, they come up to me all the time and they're like, "Man, I love your podcast. I wish you guys could do some more." And it's like, I'm like, "Are you listener number 3 or 4?" Like,
Right. Well, and we had the absolutely the fastest guy that has a clutch in his car on our podcast. Clay Milliken. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, seriously?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like I can't even believe that he came on here. It's so cool.
Yeah,
It's very flattering, actually.
He literally was going up to make a pass, and he stopped, grabbed his camera, came over, and started talking to us. And he's like, asked if he could be on our podcast. I was like, Clay Milliken knows we have a podcast, and it's called
We're
Clutch
like,
Burners, and
Uh-huh.
he knew my name,
Yep.
and it
Yep.
was like, I was like astounded. So it is quite interesting the amount of reach that it has, and you know how much people get out of it. So it's been fantastic. It feels good, and I think we'll continue to broaden it out a bit too to get a little bigger as far as like an engine builder and somebody like yourself who's making new parts for this industry. So it's pretty cool. It's been I don't know how many have we done now. I have to ask Travis, but
Oh, no, I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you, Matt Goins is number 34.
Number 34.
Nice.
34.
Hey, that's funny. I'm 34 years old.
We
Well, that's
planned that
good.
on
Yeah.
purpose. When was
Yeah.
your birthday?
December 31st. So,
Woo! All right,
How long
put that on the calendar.
yeah.
Just so you know, every time we're at a drag and drive with Matt Blasco, it's his birthday all week long. Well, I guess maybe that's just when I'm there, right?
Texas Roadhouse, yeah, it's mainly when Bill's there, and yeah, that's it. Yeah, we have lots of fun.
Yeah, it's good. Well,
Questions?
yeah,
Going to the last questions.
yeah.
Oh,
I think-
I got one more question before we do that.
okay.
How long do you think it'll be before somebody runs a 5 and an H pattern sticker?
Oh, I know the answer to this.
Oh, do you?
Well, I might hurt a couple of feelings when I say this, but it won't be this year. If it happens, it'll surprise me.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
You
I
know what
think-
it's going to be, Matt? It's when somebody puts a screw blower on the car.
When somebody puts a screw blower and an H pattern in we'll have to go top sportsman car because they won't allow the extended wheelbase. But they'll have to somehow get a factory firewall in it because of the weird rules that they run in Outlaw Stick. But I don't think they're running a 275 tire, guys. I mean, they're not. they're going to be very, very hard pressed to get in the 5s with a stick shift on a 10.5-inch tire. I just can't see it happening.
Yeah,
that's how I feel. I think somebody's going to go 20s, 620s. I can't see it going any faster. But,
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed. Like when I go and watch some of these, big tire, floppy tire, as Devin would say, cars, and what it takes to get those they're literally like full on pro mods down that fast. But then I see Brett, Brett running 620 averages and 607, and he's slowly whittling away. But even him, I mean, that's an automatic, and and it is in drag and drive format, which is more challenging than straight up racing. But man, I tell you, guys like Nick, like he's such an innovator, and he just got no give up in him at all. Like, it is amazing how, I'm not sure if he ever got his burger from Jonathan or not yet, but
okay. So here's a question. So they dictate a 275 tire, right?
Yeah.
Do they say how many?
No, none of those small tire classes say how many though.
I mean, you put 4 of them back there. That's a lot of rubber in the R275s, right?
That's true. Everybody should get like a dually pickups, right?
Right.
Turn that into a stick car.
There you go. Huh.
okay, that was my last question.
All right. So I think Travis sent you the list of questions, but we're going to jump into the TKO round. Do you want to start it, Rich? You want me to do it tonight?
Sure, I think he answered it already, which I just about every time I'm saying that. But first car you owned or modified? You're in first gear, ready to bang her in a second.
That's my 1988 third gen Camaro.
Nice.
I'm surprised your hair is not long. Like, where's the mullet? Like, you should have.
That was my question. Did you have a mullet when you were 16?
When I was 16, I didn't have a mullet, but I did have hair down to about right here. So I did have long hair. It just wasn't in a mullet form.
Nice. All right. So let's pull that thing into second gear. What, in your opinion, has been the biggest technology change to move our sport forward?
This one's a tough one for me because I feel like there are a couple of answers, but I want to side on. I want to go with a manufacturing answer because that's me, man. I'm manufacturing. I want to say that technology and manufacturing has allowed products to be made in better ways. But you got to give it to EFI, modern EFI, and ECUs. The capabilities that they have now, the things you can control, the things you can see, the differences it can make, and the changes that it can allow you to make your car faster and make your program better. I mean, it's hands down got to be the biggest game changer that I've seen happen in the short time that I've been involved in motorsports. Because you got to think, like when I started off in motorsports 18 years ago. Holley EFI wasn't even a thing. And, there are other ones that were, but the drive for everybody to want it, everybody to have it, and everybody to utilize it the way that they are now, it wasn't there. And that's honestly not that long ago. So I feel like at least while I've been doing this, that's got to be the biggest change that I've seen.
I would agree. It's made a huge impact. I mean, it's made completely unstreetable combinations incredibly drivable. It's just insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's done crazy things, like and it's not just drag racing. EFI in other forms of motorsports has been, just as impactful.
Yeah.
Okay, now the tough question. We're going to bang it up into third gear. If you could spend one day with someone, who would it be, and what would you do? Well, maybe it's not a tough question.
I'm not gonna go with a Hollywood superhero or anything like that. I'm gonna have to say I'd like to be able to spend another day with my dad. That would be nice. And I don't even like fishing, but I might take him fishing.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's good. That's
kind of the boring answer, but that's the honest one.
Not boring.
Nope.
All right, the easy shift into fourth. What influences you to build your cars? And I'm going to change it a little bit. What influences you to build your business?
Well, I have I don't know the best way to put this. Like, I've tried to answer this multiple times for people who've asked me this, and I don't know how to explain it best, but I really enjoy, it sounds stupid, but working, the kind of work that I do. I enjoy it. I like problem solving. And I like just trying to make things. I've always wanted to make things, and just where I'm at and what I'm doing, like that's what I've got to do, and I enjoy it so much. So I guess what really drives me is the fact that I'm getting to do something that I love, and that's just kind of what keeps me going. Yeah, I get burnt out every now and then, but like I see a new thing and. Or like a new area that I want to try to learn about or something like that. And like, I'm just so driven to either learn or do it or figure it out or make something new, make a splash, come out with something that nobody's thought of. Like that's my entire drive. So even in business, that's my drive. Like, I want Take Performance to be known for the company that made something happen that nobody else could. And, that's what keeps me going. It's just, that desire to be there and do that.
That's awesome.
That's not a stupid answer at all. That's
a
great answer, yeah.
No, and honestly, if you love what you're doing, it's not really work, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, some days it feels like it. There's some days where you have to do more business stuff than you do, or you have to do more business stuff that's not the fun side of business than you do regular stuff. And, those days are always harder. They always come dragging home, and I just want to go to sleep. But like I'm sitting here with you guys, and it's 10 o'clock where I'm at, and I'm loving life.
And I can't even imagine with 22 employees, the HR stuff you have to deal with, that just sucks.
It's honestly not too bad. It's a pretty good group of guys, and we all act like we should, and most of the time. So it's really not that bad. It's really not.
That's helpful.
I've never mentioned this before, but this is for both of you guys actually. If or anyone listening, if you get a chance, go on YouTube and search. I think it's called a beach body at 92, and it's this 92-year-old doing a TED talk, and maybe in Zurich or something. It's in English, but and he talks about why retirement age is the way, or is it 65, and but he really talks about why it's not the right age actually, that you should work, feel valued and do things that you love and keep going. But it's a great video. I can't articulate it as well as he did, but he's hilarious because he starts off the video, and I remember sending this to my boss. I know she ain't gonna listen to this, but she was a fantastic boss, but she's retired now. But she's religious, and I send her this video, and I forget that the 92-year-old starts the video. He's in this large group of these younger people, and they're all taller than him, and the group gets really crowded, and he plants his face between these beautiful breasts. The next time I watch the video, I'm like, oh, I totally forgot about that. Sending that to my boss, and but anyway, it's a great video. You have to watch it. It speaks to exactly what you're talking about, Matt, about enjoying life and doing things that you love and feeling valued and contributing. It talks about all that stuff, and it also talks about people who retire, don't feel valued, start taking all kinds of medications for their aches and pains. The movement goes way down, and he does a really good job. At 92, this guy is he's very articulate. It's a great watch. But anyways, that was a bit of a podium speech, but or justification why I'm going to retire at 85 because I spent all my money on car parts. All right, we're going to bang it into the drag and drive gear of sixth, and no,
fifth.
Sorry, we're up into fifth.
Sometimes we might skip fifth, but let's not skip it tonight.
Okay, what in your opinion is the secret to stick shift racing?
Luck. It's absolutely luck. That is the secret.
That's the best answer. That's the most honest answer we've heard.
Yep. Yeah, you're going to go up there to that starting line, and if you're lucky, something's not going to break. If you're lucky, the guy beside of you will break something. If you're lucky, you'll both leave the line at the same time, and you'll win, and he won't. If you're lucky, you won't miss a shift. If you're lucky, everything will go right. So luck has got to be the biggest thing.
All right. Well,
the best answer.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's now switch into the lucky sixth gear, and it's either 0.64 or 0.5.
Yeah,
really aggressive. What advice would you give to someone getting into this sport?
Don't be afraid to fail. And that's not just getting into the sport of drag racing, or stick shift racing. That's getting into life, getting into business, getting into relationships. Don't be afraid to fail, because when you fail, you can learn. If you get into racing and you expect that everything's going to go right, you're going to put this car together, or you're going to buy a car, whatever it may be, you're going to go up the starting line, you're going to win. You're always going to win. You're going to win every round. You're going to always have success. Nothing's ever going to go wrong. It's not reality. You're going to have problems. Things are going to go wrong, and failure is an opportunity to learn. So, my advice: don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to lose.
Wow, well put.
This guy's way smarter than I thought he was.
Yeah, what's your YouTube channel? Or are you on TED Talk next week?
I am not. I am not on TED Talk.
Well, I'll put in a nomination for you, because you're dropping some value bombs here. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
So, well, Matt, that's kind of the end. Let me just do the last bit. We can keep talking, and then when we cut it off, we'll still stay on and talk a little. But as always, huge thanks to Stick Shift Nation for hosting this podcast. You can find it on all the podcast platforms. We would love to see you at PRI or at any drag and drive event with a Clutch Burners shirt on. That's right. That's the best way to do laundry, is just buy clean shirts. And you can also get Stick Shift Nation shirts, hats, or stickers. Just go over to stickracing.com and get all that good merch. And that's it.
Well, so
We
before we
appreciate.
go,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
definitely
oh,
appreciate your time, Matt. You know, and like you
Absolutely.
said, we know how busy you are, and before, yeah. So talk about all your socials. Where can people
Yep.
get a hold of you? Talk about your throw your personal phone number out there. Whatever you got to do.
Yeah, so you can get us. You can, if you need help, support at tick-performance.com. If you want to email tickperformance.com. All the social channels, Facebook, Instagram, it's all under Tick Performance. You can catch us on any of those.
Awesome. Yeah, super. Again, really appreciate your time. I mean, you said it earlier, you don't have a lot of free time, and we appreciate you giving us right now 2 hours and 2 minutes of your time. So
Oh, yeah, I appreciate you asking me to be on this. I really do.
yeah, I'm flattered. I don't know about Rich, but I'm flattered.
Yeah. No, we really appreciate it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much, Matt.
Yep, no problem. Thanks,
All
guys.
right. Over and out.